So what Andy was just showing me is that from this collision, unfortunately, this whole side here is kind of pushed in. But there's a little kind of cut in the floor. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. For my 240 lovers, today's video is for you because we are working on my S14 that's up on the lift behind me and getting the suspension taken off and all of the interior out and getting this shell ready to go off to Epitome Auto Design to fix the damage that we already know about. Now, unfortunately, when I had the car up on the lift last week, I noticed some unexpected damage. Let me show you. So here's what we're dealing with. I'm gonna zoom in here a little bit to give you guys a closer look, but there's a little kind of cut in the floor that I have no idea how that would have gotten there because it's up here next to the frame rail. So something had to hit it here, but not hit the frame rail. Super bizarre, but it does appear to have gone through. I think I can see the padding to the carpet below it. What we're gonna do is get the whole interior out and get this exposed so that Andy can kind of flatten it out, weld it shut, and then once we undercoat, you'll never know it was there. Now this will be fixed in addition to the other damage that we've already talked about on the car with the core support that needs to be replaced, as well as the spare tire well that we have all new sheet metal going in to the rear of the car. Now, if you've been watching the channel, you've already seen this. For those of you who may be new here, the car appears to have been jacked up by the spare tire well, crunching the metal on the bottom side here and a little bit on this backside panel here. So I was lucky enough to find a donor car. We pulled the sheet metal out of it there. And there, I'll throw some photos up on the screen so you can kind of see what Andy's been working on. We're gonna get those fully replaced. New spot welds is gonna look just like it did from the factory. But in order to do that, Andy needs all of the suspension around here fully removed. Now, rather than paying him for the labor to take the suspension off, I put that money into an auto body dolly cart that we can set the car on when there's no suspension on it. My thought here was that I want to restore the whole underside of the car. I want to restore all of the suspension. And if I didn't have that body dolly, I wouldn't be able to roll the car around. It would just have to stay up on the lift until everything is ready to go. This is gonna allow us to wheel around the shop, not leave the car up on the lift, and take our time with the underside restoration. Now, unfortunately, when I ordered that, they sent me some of the wrong parts, so I'm waiting for those to come. By the end of this video, you guys will see that body dolly. We'll be dropping the shell down onto that dolly and getting the car ready for Andy to pick it up. So our first order of business, we need to get the interior out of this car. I'm gonna bring the car down on the ground. We're gonna pull everything out. Andy needed the rear seat and that kind of stuff taken out anyway because of the work that's going on in the rear end. And just due to how clean that interior is and all the time that I spent cleaning it and sourcing it, I'm just gonna pull it all out and not risk any sort of damage. We're gonna take off the tail lights as well. This thing's gonna be stripped down pretty bare bone. Got everything I need off the rear of the car. So as you can see here, because the damage came up onto this panel a little bit and kind of buckled it back, Andy was thinking we're gonna probably have to replace this piece as well. So we pulled this piece and the bottom side piece off the donor car, and then there's spot welds all along the perimeter on both sides that he's gonna have removed. So it's a pretty tedious process, but it's the right way to do it, and we definitely wanna make sure we're doing it the right way. I've pulled off everything I can along here, from the trunk seal to the trim piece. There are little brackets that go here to support the bumper. Everything I can get out of his way to make his job easier, so that when he comes in, what he'll be doing is removing the seam sealer along there, getting all the spot welds out. He'll take this bottom piece out here, this piece out here, and we'll have those fully replaced. With the rear end of the car disassembled, we're gonna go start working on the interior. So like I said, we're gonna be pulling everything out of here. Front seats, rear seats, center console. I thought I was gonna leave the dash in, but because we have to take the carpet out to fix that kind of cut in the floorboard, the dash does have to come out to get the carpet out. So we're essentially stripping everything that we did out of the interior, which is totally fine. I kind of put everything in here as a dry run to see what I had, what I needed. So this was kind of planned all along. And while this is out, we'll work on some of the wiring stuff that we need to do for the rest of the car. So it's totally fine. right, we've got a major progress update. Most of the interior is out of the car. The last thing we need to do is, unfortunately, take this crossbar out. I believe we have to take the crossbar out and the HVAC unit to get the carpet out, which really sucks, but it's what's necessary to get that cut in the floor that's like right around there. We're gonna work on getting this out, pulling the carpet out. Once the carpet's out, this will all be exposed, and then we can pull the whole car onto the lift and get the suspension off and have this pretty much be just a shell, not a rolling shell, just a shell. Andy can pick it up, do the work he needs to do on it, and we're gonna get this thing back to a point where it's ready for repair. It's a lot of like one step forward, two steps back with this car. And honestly, I've never had a project quite like this where it's like, it's so in depth, but I'm excited and frustrated at the same time. I'm so excited to enjoy this car and the fruits of our labor. But at the same time, it's like, I've really never had a car that's did this much work, but I love this thing. So I'll catch you guys tomorrow. We'll get the rest of the interior out, pull the suspension off, and keep getting this thing ready for Andy to pick it up. We are finally almost at a point where we can take the carpet out. And there's a lot torn apart here, but there's a few reasons why I'm totally fine tearing this all down. First of all, this stuff all needs to be cleaned. There's a bunch of dust that I wasn't able to reach when I was doing the initial clean. So we're gonna get all of our HVAC system thoroughly cleaned on the outside, blow out the inside for any dust. And then the second reason is the harness. So someone who thinks they knew anything about wiring and really didn't, went at this harness with these clip-on pieces here to wire in the S15 cluster. Now, one option would be to remove these, put heat shrink over each wire, and just heat shrink it so that there's no exposed wire. That's one option. The other option is just to find a replacement harness, which is, I believe, this whole dash harness here. And that's the other reason this is good, is that I can assess and see what all is part of this harness and if that's something that I want to replace. If you've ever done this or you have any input on what I should do in this situation, leave some feedback down in the comment section below. I've been looking for one of these dash harnesses, but finding one that is not cut up or modified is proving harder than I thought. So I'd love to hear your input. But I'm gonna go ahead and pull out this HVAC system here, and then we'll be able to remove the carpet out of the car. I think we're finally ready to take the carpet out. We got everything out up there. The e-brake's disconnected so we can pull the carpet over that. We're gonna reuse this carpet, so I definitely wanna make sure that it comes out all in one piece. We're not gonna do any cutting or anything like that. So I think we're free to get everything pulled up. I'm gonna set you guys on a tripod and try to get this thing out of here. I am super glad we have the opportunity to clean under here because it's the one spot we didn't get, and it definitely has some dust from its time as an abandoned 240. Let me show you guys the damage over here. So it's pretty small, but this little guy right there, it's just split in the floor, and I'm super glad that it's on the edge of this sound deadening. I'm sure he's gonna have to remove this kind of area around it to weld this shut, but I'm glad that it wasn't under the sound deadening where we had to like search for it or anything like that. So we're gonna get that welded up and taken care of. That is just the most bizarre damage. I don't know how it did that so high up when the frame rail's over here and much lower, but nonetheless, pretty insane. But there's the car, all gutted and ready to go off to Andy's shop. And definitely a good thing that we are gonna get these all cleaned up. I don't know if you guys can see in there, there is literally leaves and stuff all inside this box. So we're gonna get that all vacuumed out, clean the top of it, And same thing here, and just get these back to new condition before we put them in the car. So the next order of business is getting this car up on the lift and pulling off all of the suspension stuff. But in order to do that, I have to take care of this massive pile of interior parts. I definitely want to put all this stuff where it's going to be safe and protected while the car is off and away at the body shop. Probably going to put it all inside my house because this stuff is all super nice and I just can't risk anything happening to it. And there's just 240 parts everywhere. We've got the lights up here, all the interior pieces, the speedometer. So I'm going to organize all these parts into this cabinet here and just get myself organized here because we did a lot of dismantling over the last few days and now we need to do a lot of organizing. Whew, worked up quite a sweat, but everything here is put away and organized. We've got all the parts over here cleaned up for the most part. We've got parts up there for decoration and lack of room. But we're ready to get the car up on the lift. The next thing we're gonna do is throw it up on the lift and remove all of the suspension. And then when the auto body dolly cart finally arrives with the right parts, we'll put that together, drop the car on it, and this car will be ready to go off to Andy and look perfect again. What is up, you guys? I have no idea where I left this video off because it has been weeks that I've been trying to get the suspension off of this car and onto the auto body dolly cart that is over here. Now, I don't know how much I filmed of it. I ordered this well over a month ago because it was one of the few that was in stock and would ship and get to me in time for my appointment with the 240 to go off to Epitome Auto Design. The parts get here on Friday. He's picking the car up that weekend, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. They send the wrong parts. So I'm screwed. Have to reschedule my appointment. They send me replacement parts. They sent the wrong parts again. So third time's the charm. We got the right parts. I'm gonna go ahead and put this auto body dolly cart together just to make sure that we have all the parts before I pull the suspension off the 240. And then we'll get to pulling the suspension off the 240 and getting the car lowered down and ready to be picked up tomorrow. We finally have all the parts for this cart. So it's all set up, ready to go. This thing's fully adjustable in both directions. So we'll get it to fit the car once we get the car up in the air. So the first thing we need to do is loosen up the lug nuts on these wheels. And hopefully this is the last time these junk wheels are ever on this car. All right, so we got all 4 wheels and tires off the car. The next thing we need to do is start getting the suspension removed from the vehicle. So the first thing I'm gonna do is disconnect the strut and spring combo, pull those out of the car, and then my plan is to drop both subframes out complete, and then we'll disassemble those later because we're gonna do a full restoration on both the front and rear subframe. I'm talking new powder coat, all new bolts, new arms, the whole 9 yards. So we'll disassemble that stuff later and then figure out what we need to save from that and what we can recycle or get rid of. All right, I would say we have a pretty serious progress update. The whole rear subframe is out of the car. So we've got the rear end stripped down to the shell. Gonna go ahead and attack the front end of the car. Same thing, just pulling this front subframe down. We gotta disconnect the suspension up top and then remove it here, and then we'll drop it down the same way we did with the rear suspension. So we've got it easy to roll around. And like I said, in a future video, we will disassemble all of this. We're gonna powder coat the subframe black so it looks factory, get all new Nismo arms, new bolts. It's gonna be really sweet. All right, the front subframe is officially out of the car. This thing kind of looks like it should be going to the junkyard, but don't worry, it's gonna make the most epic comeback. I am so excited. This is huge progress. So we got the front subframe, rear subframe, and like I said, we're gonna tear both of these completely apart, get them powder coated black so they look like they did from the factory, all new arms, potentially new hubs, and if those can't be vapor honed, like this is gonna get a total restoration. I'm super, super excited for this. So I'm gonna get this thing up in the air, take a look under it, see if there's anything else we need to remove before trying to get it onto the body card. So we officially have everything off the bottom of the car that we need off to send it off to Andy's shop. So he's gonna be replacing this bottom piece and this back piece here. He pulled both of those off of our donor car. So that's where he's gonna be replacing. Had to get the whole rear subframe out so that he had room to go along the spot welds there. And then I just took the front subframe out for some weight savings, and he's gonna be doing the front core support as well. So I left the power braces in there because that's kind of part of the frame of reference of where the core support goes. So I gotta grab that OEM core support for him as well, but it's time to officially get this thing on that thing. Let's do it. Holy shit, we have done it. We have got the car officially down on the body dolly, and I'm super happy that there's a lot of height here. That was one thing Andy was concerned about, was making sure that he had enough room to work under the car. I think that he will have plenty of room because he's usually using like a quick jack system. And this is gonna be a huge help as we restore the rest of the car, just because this is gonna allow us to wheel the car around the shop while we're working on it, and as we restore the suspension without having to put this junk suspension back on the car. I am totally exhausted. It's like 1 a.m. on Friday. But I had to get this done because Andy's picking the car up tomorrow, so it's ready to go. I'm gonna come out in the morning and just get a few things wrapped up, pull the core support out that he's gonna take with him, and just get it all ready, and I'll show you guys all that stuff in the morning. I'll see you then. All right, boys, today is the day. The car is going off to Epitome Auto Design to get a huge step forward in this restoration process. I've got the car ready on the stand behind me. Got the new core support that Andy's gonna be welding in. This is a brand new piece from Nissan. Let me show you guys this thing real quick. All right, so as you can imagine, I am super stoked that we have an OEM Nissan piece to replace this with. A brand new piece, let alone. You see a lot of people replace the core support with one off of another totaled out car or something. So we were lucky enough to get one of these before they were discontinued, and this is gonna replace the damaged core support on the car, and someone drilled hood pins into it. So it's just gonna be a total OEM refresh, and the way Andy does this, removing it at the spot welds, is the right way to do it. So it's gonna be a perfect refresh to the front end of this car. The next time you guys see this car, we'll be at Andy's shop, showing this process of how the core support gets replaced, as well as the spare tire well that's been damaged on the car. That's the other big piece that we needed to fix to move forward on this. And as you can see, there is this hole down here in the trunk. So we're gonna get both of those things fixed and get this car one step closer to being on the road, which I am super, super excited about. loaded up and headed off to Epitome Auto Design. He's gonna need this car for probably 3 or 4 days. He's starting on it on Monday, so I'm gonna head over to his shop on Monday. So the next video you guys see of the car, I'll be showcasing the work that he's doing and what's going into making this an OEM style repair. You won't even be able to tell when he's done with it. So what Andy was just showing me is that from this collision, unfortunately, this whole side here is kind of pushed in. So we're getting our strut tower and this piece pushed in slightly. Now it looks like someone pulled it back out at this corner. We say this for 2 reasons. One, because there's kind of an indentation here of movement. And B, this fender liner hole is very close, while this one's a little bit more off. So there is the option to repair this. We basically need to replace this piece here, which starts there and runs back here. So we would need that off of a donor car, because when this gets tweaked in, if they pull it back out, you're gonna see some rippling in it. So that's the proper way to repair that. Either way, if we fix this car, it does need to go on a frame rack to pull this side back out. Again, very fixable. So that's the good news. It is fixable, just deciding how much money we want to put into it. This is all good. The strut tower metal is good, but we do have a little bit of buckling up here, and Andy sees it in here as well. So just trying to decide our options on fixing this. If we can find this part, we'd at least know that this shell is a completely solid start. My concern in getting something else is we could run into this again and not know, even if it looks clean, and then we're right back where we started. So an unfortunate update, but there is an upside to it.